Morning, Facebook, and I guess and Twitch. Over here, Facebook. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Friday to all of you out there who are about to tune in or are tuning in. There we go. It's not public. So I should be able to see your chat comments on here. We're going to test. And yes, cool. All right, so good morning. Happy Friday. Good morning, Matt. Gotta get that running, brother. Yep, Twitch is up. Everything's up. Look at that. The world is working as it should. If you look outside today, you will notice that big yellowish orange object. If you're in the Syracuse area, that's called the sun. It contains vitamin D. You should actually go out and check it out. It's pretty cool. It's a little chilly out, but again, as I always preach, get outside, stay outside, do as much as you can outside. Obviously, don't be boring or you'll go back to Eminem. You know, Eminem actually, I heard, I think it was like 12 years sober. He just hit like 12 years sober or something. Some pretty good milestone. Going from a guy who actually released an album about being on pills. So go figure. All right, so not to bore Matt, because we don't want to bore Matt. It's Friday. So with Friday, I was kind of thinking along the terms today, good morning, Mother, of, you know, like what are some of the keys that you guys use to help you maintain your discipline? So, and I'm going to talk mostly about like what I use to maintain my discipline, to maintain my motivation. In this circles all the way back to like the first week and a half, I talked about, you know, finding your why and kind of really knowing what your why is and always having that purpose, that sense of purpose. So, you know, I read through a lot of stuff, a lot of comments on the team page and stuff. And it's funny to watch, you know, even just through Facebook, how many, you know, different friends I have that, you know, every 3 weeks, it seems like they're posting the same question of, so what's everybody doing for, there goes a runner by my house right now. You know, what's everybody doing for a diet while they're in quarantine? And you know, did anybody give up anything for quarantine? And, you know, instead of, you know, so they're looking outward, they're looking to see what everybody else is doing so they can determine if that's what they want to do. So one of the things that I find is, and again, like going back to this, writing it down, maintaining, you know, having it, like once you put it out there, it's a lot harder to allow yourself to fail because you're going to want to hold yourself more accountable. So from a discipline perspective, I look at it as, you know, Jocko Willink, which we're going to talk a little bit about Jocko next week, but, you know, he talks about discipline equals freedom. So discipline equals freedom in the sense that if you're disciplined, if you know, and we're just going to run through a sample morning. So you get up at 5, you read you do yoga. Good morning, Beverly. You eat your breakfast, you do your workout, you maintain that all the way through through noon, and you do that system every single day. You don't miss a beat, and you aren't tied down to, oh, well, when I get out of work, now I got to go get a workout in. I really don't want to work out. I've got too much others. Like, I want to just go home and relax. The more disciplined you are, the more likely you are to continue to make that forward progress. So when people typically fail at achieving a goal, whether if it's a realistic goal, it's because somewhere along the line, they've gotten lax in their discipline. So think of it from a meal prep perspective. oh, I just didn't really want to cook this weekend. Well, guess what? You're not going to hit your meal plan until you start cooking. I mean, and that's the simple truth is if you don't plan ahead, how can you expect to succeed? If I take everything from nutrition and fitness and we shift it all to the work environment, it's a totally different ballgame. You could be the best worker in the world and you're never missing deadlines. And Matt, I'm going to pick on you because we were talking about this a little bit the other day is, how do I struggle so much with my nutrition when I have everything in place to succeed? Well, you're a truck driver. You go, you pick up a delivery, and then you have to take it somewhere. Right? So, and then offload it and then pick something else up and the cycle continues. And I'm sure that there's a lot more to that. But if you have a job to do and you do your job 60%, do you still have a job? Or are you now on the chop block? So everybody always talks about like, oh, 80-20 with your diet. Just make sure when you do that 20 that you're not going ham and you're not going crazy. But is that 20% then? So in the grand scheme of things, are you 80% effective at your job and 20% of the time you're just a waste of space? Or when you're at work, are you giving work your all? When you're at home with your food, are you giving that your all? With fitness, are you giving that your all? If you're supposed to do a 10-mile run, let's just say you're supposed to do a 10-mile run every day, and you decide you're going to work on this 80-20 principle, and you go 8 miles every day. You have not met a single objective. So how can you expect to go into a race if you needed to run 10 miles a day in preparation for a race and you only put in 80% of the effort? How can you expect to go to that race and have 100% success? You can't. You shouldn't. So how could you do that with nutrition? How could you do that with work? If you go to work and you only put in 80% effort all day, every day, for 365 days, your year-end review comes and they're like, well, you're an average, you do about 80% of the work. Should you get a raise at that point? Because really, I mean, you're not doing exemplary work. You're only doing 80%. So, so you're always, but again, now we're tying something extrinsic to that, which is a financial gain or, a promotion, something along those lines. So it's quote unquote different. But again, if health is wealth, then are they different or are they the same? So, when it comes to discipline, that's kind of how I look at things is, I want to make sure that whether I'm siding our house, whether I'm doing a workout, I have a joke with one of my athletes, Deb, that, I finished a run one time and it was like 13.97. And she goes, why wouldn't you run that last 0.03? And I was like, because I don't have to. But the thing is it was only supposed to be a 12-mile run. So I could have run up to 14, but I was like, you know what? I'm at the top of my driveway. I hit the objective of the run, which was to run 12 miles. And I ended up going a little bit more. So could I have rounded it up to that 0.03 and finished out the run? Sure, I could have, but I had already met my objective and it was time to move on. So I look at stuff like that in myself, and I also expect that out of athletes and clients is, are you going to do, if you have a landscaper that comes to your house and mows 80% of your lawn each time they show up or mulches 80%, do you keep them? So when we look at this, like this 80-20 rule, if you apply it across the broad spectrum of your life, if you only made 80% of your bed every day, which side are you making? Your side or your spouse's or significant others? So that's the discipline piece that I look at is if you're going to do it, commit to it and see it through. Same thing with, the 75 hard. put another X in there, is if I complete 80% of that, is it good? I haven't completed all 75 days. So, it's not completion of task. So, failure to plan is going to be failure to execute. And that's where your discipline is going to come in. So if you have a goal, then you need to make that goal enough of a priority and make it, and discipline yourself to see that goal through. And there's no shortcuts. There's no easy way out. Sure, you could go and, well, no, I guess you can't. I was going to say you go sit in a sauna and sweat it out, but you can't unless you have one in your house. So there's no way of shortchanging yourself to get to where you're going to go. You can't become a doctor by taking a shortcut to get there. You have to put in the time. You have to put in the reps. You have to put in the work. The same goes for fitness. The same goes for nutrition. If you're 300 pounds, you can't turn around and become 160 by saying, you know what, I'm going to lose 5 pounds a week. Guess what? You're not going to do that for very long. You have to put in the time. If you're 50 years old and you're 300 pounds, it's taken you 50 years to get to that point. Hopefully it doesn't take you 50 years to get rid of it because you won't be here. But, you have to be aggressive and smart and say, you know what, I have to change my life. I have to instill this discipline that this is the person I want to be. And that goes all the way back to when we talked about habits, is what are the habits that you do on a daily basis? Matt loves his M&Ms. If a habit of his is every time he goes on a route, and again, I'm just going to pick on you driving truck because this is when you're eating your M&Ms, I think. And every time he goes from New Hartford to Albany, there's one rest stop that he always stops at to take a break and go to the bathroom, and they have a display of M&Ms right there. And every time he walks by and grabs it, that's a habit he has to break. So how can he do that? How can he create this discipline to not get them? Use a different rest stop. That might be inconvenient. But you know what? What's more inconvenient? Eating the M&Ms or waiting another 32 miles to the next rest stop? It's a matter of, holding yourself accountable, especially when you have all the parts and pieces at home trying to hold you accountable. So, let's see, make sure everything's still working. Those are the key pieces when it comes to discipline, is really looking at it from that perspective. Attaboy. See? I knew I'd keep you engaged. If I just talk about you the whole time, you won't go anywhere. And for those of you who don't know, Matt was featured by Hoka, which is a running shoe company, for his journey. I believe, I wholeheartedly believe it's because the VPs at Hoka were tuning into our daily fireside chat, and Matt was featured, and shortly thereafter, they interviewed Matt back, I don't know, over the winter. And he was featured for Hoka. So, for his amazing journey so far. And I say so far because Matt and I have still got plans. So he's got further to go. And we're always working on that discipline. So today is thinking about, just to recap, I like to beat a dead horse when it comes to this stuff, because again, if we talk about 80-20, are you going to are you going to perform at your job 80%? Do you want someone to come over and perform a job at your house at 80%? Do you want, if everybody just gave 80%, how far behind would everything be? If a doctor went in and, you needed shoulder surgery and they fixed 80% of it, they could have done the other 20, but I really wanted to just get out 5 minutes early because it's a nice day and go ride my bike. Be a little pissed off. Or if you're getting anesthesia and they only gave you 80% of what they were supposed to, I bet you're going to feel a little bit different at the end of that surgery than you would have if they gave you 100% of what they were supposed to. So, my question to you kids on a Friday for you to ponder for the weekend is, if 80% is good enough for nutrition, then why is it not good enough for the rest of your life in the other aspects? Whether it's work, whether it's your doctor, whether it's the landscapers that come over, any of that stuff. We expect 100% provided to us, but yet when it comes to taking care of ourselves, we're only interested in doing 80% of the work at most. Most of you don't even want to put in 80%. You want to put in like 60% or 50% and reap the benefits of 100%. If you want 100% of the outcome, you have to put in 100% of the work, and that's going to go back to motivation. It's going to go back to discipline. It's going to go back to healthy habits. It's going to go back to you wanting this more intrinsically than extrinsically. You want it more deep down within you than you want to post it on social media. You have to want it more. And again, if you set that level of expectation that I'm going to follow my diet 80% of the time, that 20%, so hire me to do your landscaping and I'll mow 80% of your yard one week, and then the next week I'll mulch 20% or 80% of your trees, and or maybe I'll just plow 80% of your driveway. Let's just hope the 20% isn't the part you need. So think of it from that perspective. Carry that over to your fitness. Are you going to do that 8-mile run, or are you going to finish it out to 10 like you're supposed to? And Matt, I'm not talking to you in that instance. So, whatever and that's just, for me, that's an easy example because, math is not my strong suit. I'm not bad at it. I don't love it. So think of it, is 80% really enough? Or would you rather strive to hit 100%? So take that outside of your workplace, outside of the people that are doing work for you, or the doctors, operations, anything like that. Again, you wouldn't expect them to do their job at 80%. So why do I expect you to do your fitness and or nutrition job at 80%? I don't. I expect 100%. Then again, that's just me. So you have to expect 100% from you if you want to get to where you claim you want to be going. So have a great weekend. Enjoy this beautiful weather. And for my friends that might be up in the Old Forge area, looks like it's going to be chilly this weekend. Enjoy that snowfall. We might get some snow down here, but I doubt it. It's really sunny out. It's really chilly out. That doesn't matter. Get outside, get some vitamin D in your system, and absolutely have a great weekend. I will see you guys next week. We are going to talk about discipline. I'm going to try to get my wonderful cousin Josh on to talk about motivation. He has a pretty amazing story, so I will keep you posted. Maybe Tuesday or Wednesday we'll make it a long day, because his story is a pretty long one. It's if you can't gain motivation after hearing Josh talk, then you obviously have to go and sit in a really dark room and think about yourself for a long time. So have a great weekend. I will see you guys next week. Discipline, Josh Virgil, and more random thoughts from Ed. So have a great weekend, guys.